An airline with about 60 planes just told the world it plans to fly 200. Not over 50 years, but over the next decade or so. That is not growth. That is a different company wearing the same logo. Now let's make it a bit stranger. 5 years before that promise, the same airline was bleeding more than $100 million every single month. It fired 1/3 of its pilots, sold off brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliners, killed its routes to South America, and parked 20 aircraft. The airline I'm talking about is Royal Air Maroc, the flag carrier of Morocco. So here's the question that does not add up. Why is a carrier that almost did not survive 2020 now placing one of the most aggressive bets in all of global aviation? The answer is not ambition. It is a map, a football tournament, and a contract for nearly 200 jets that as of today still does not exist on paper. Stay with me in this video, and by the end, you'll understand it all. Start with the thing most people get wrong about Morocco. They picture the far corner of Africa, the end of the line. Look again. Casablanca sits at a crossroads almost no other city can claim. Fly north and Europe is 3 hours away. Fly south and the whole of West and Central Africa opens up. Fly west across the Atlantic and you reach the Americas. 1 airport, 3 continents, all inside the range of a single narrow body or a mid-size wide body. That position is the entire strategy. Royal Air Maroc does not really need you to visit Casablanca. It just needs you to change planes there. That move has a name in this business. It's the 6th freedom traffic. You carry a passenger from one foreign country to another through your own hub, and you sell them the connection. It is the same trick Emirates plays from Dubai, Turkish plays from Istanbul, and Ethiopian has built into the most successful airline on the continent out of Addis Ababa. Win the connection, and you do not need a giant home market. For Morocco, the reason is Africa, and the west of it in particular. A traveler in Dakar, or Abidjan, or Douala wants to reach New York or Sao Paulo. For decades, that meant flying north to Paris first, then doubling back across the Atlantic. Casablanca offers a straighter line. And there's a second, steadier market underneath it, the diaspora. Millions of Moroccans live in France, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and they fly home constantly for summers, for weddings, for funerals. That traffic does not vanish in a recession. And here is what almost nobody outside Morocco knows. This is not a new ambition. It is an old one, dusted off. Royal Air Maroc was assembled in 1953 out of 2 small carriers flying propeller planes across a country still under French control. The airline Moroccans actually recognized was born 4 years later in 1957, 1 year after Morocco won its independence. The new kingdom took majority control and gave the airline the name it carries today. From that day, it was never only a company. It was a flag. A young nation telling the world it could move under its own power. And it reached far early. The first jet, a French Caravelle, arrived in 1960. In 1969, the airline placed its first order with Boeing, took a Boeing 727 the next year, and began a relationship with the American plane maker that has now run for more than 50 years. By 1975, it was flying to New York, the first Arab airline ever to serve the city. That same year, it opened a route to Rio de Janeiro. Look at that date. Half a century ago, a Moroccan carrier was already trying to bridge Africa, Europe, and the Americas from Casablanca. So the bet you are watching today is not a sudden flash of ambition. It is the oldest idea this airline has. The geography never changed. What changed was the moment. Then came the wound that still shapes it. In 2006, Morocco and Europe signed an open skies deal, and the low-cost carriers came flooding in. For the first time, Royal Air Maroc had to fight for its own backyard, the short hops to Europe, against airlines built to undercut it. That fight is not over, but we'll come back to this a bit later in the video. First, the airline went global in a different way. In April of 2020, Royal Air Maroc joined OneWorld, the alliance built around American Airlines, British Airways, and Qatar Airways. It became the 14th member. More striking than the number, it became the first airline from anywhere in Africa ever admitted as a full member. Today, it is still the only one. A continent of 1.4 billion people, and one of the 3 biggest alliances on Earth, has exactly one full member there. Casablanca. That seat is not a vanity badge, it is a feeding tube. A passenger booked on American Airlines out of Dallas, or British Airways out of London, can be handed straight onto Royal Air Maroc and carried deep into Africa on one ticket. The alliance gets a door into Africa. The airline gets a global sales force it could never have built alone. The airline had been turning a profit right up to the pandemic. Then 2020 arrived and nearly ended all of it. When the border slammed shut, Royal Air Maroc was hit harder than almost any carrier its size. At the worst of it, the airline was losing around $5 million a day. Over a month, that ran past $100 million. Management called it the worst crisis since the airline was founded in 1957, and the response was brutal. 858 jobs cut, 180 pilots, a full third of the roster gone, around 500 cabin crew on top of that. 20 aircraft pulled from the fleet, including 4 of those expensive Dreamliners and a dozen of the workhorse Boeing 737. The South American route flying stopped completely. The same planes meant to push the airline across the Atlantic where the first one sold. Here is the quiet irony. For 2 decades, the Moroccan government had debated privatizing Royal Air Maroc. Should the state really own an airline at all? It kept deciding not to. Then, the pandemic nearly made the decision for it. And when the dust settled, the state did not pull back. It did the opposite. It went all in. Because the recovery is where this story stops being about survival and turns into something far bigger. The bounce, as mostly in aviation, was not instant. 2022 was still a loss. Around 5 million passengers carried, an operating result deep in the red, down nearly 1.7 billion dirhams. Then, by 2023, the turn was unmistakable. Royal Air Maroc won back 96% of its pre-pandemic passengers, with a fleet 10% smaller than before. Revenue jumped 57% in a single year to 19.7 billion dirhams. Its best result in a decade. Then 2024 went further still. Record revenue of around 20 billion dirhams, roughly $2.2 billion. The airline even paid more than 900 million dirhams in taxes, which for a state carrier is a strange kind of trophy. It meant they were finally making real money again. The Moroccan government looked at all of that and made a call. Do not just recover, expand hugely. In 2023, the state and the airline signed a program contract running all the way to 2037. The targets are the kind you read twice. Grow the fleet from around 50 aircraft to 200. Push annual passengers from roughly 7.5 million to more than 31 million. Lift revenue toward 94 billion dirhams, almost $10 billion, nearly 5 times today's figure. Add over 100 new international routes. This was endorsed at the very top by King Mohammed VI as national strategy. Then, in April of 2024, came the tender. An order for as many as 188 new aircraft, thrown open to all 4 big plane makers: Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, and the turboprop maker ATR. For Boeing, this was about defending home turf after more than 50 years as the airline's near-exclusive supplier. The reported shape had Boeing taking the lion's share, something like 50 Boeing 737 MAX and around 24 Boeing 787. For Airbus, it was a rare chance to break in, with reports of around 20 Airbus A220, its smallest jet, which would be the airline's first new Airbus order in about 20 years. And for Embraer, which already supplies the airline its 4 Embraer E190 regional jets, the Airbus push was a direct threat to a customer it thought it had. 4 manufacturers, 1 enormous order, years of jockeying, and then something strange happened. Or should I say, nothing actually did happen. Because here's the part the press releases quietly skip. That 200 plane order, the headline number, the $25 billion figure quoted around the world, as of today, it still does not exist as a signed contract. Years after the tender opened, after the Paris Air Show came and went, after Bloomberg and Reuters both reported a deal was close, Royal Air Maroc has not actually placed the firm order. There is a plan, there is a tender, there is just no official signature on a purchase agreement for those hundreds of jets. So how is the fleet growing at all right now? Not by buying, but by renting. Every shiny Boeing 737 MAX 8 rolling into Casablanca this year is leased, not owned. A 13 aircraft package from one lessor, a 6 aircraft batch from another. At one point, the airline was pulling in close to 1 new jet every 2 weeks. It is an impressive sprint. It is also a tell. You lease when you need metal in a hurry, and you are not ready or not able to commit to a 20-year purchase. And that flips the whole question. This stops being a story about an airline buying planes. It becomes a story about whether it actually can, whether the financing comes together, whether a plan blessed by a king survives contact with a balance sheet and a delivery backlog that already stretches for years, because the deadline will not move. In 2030, Morocco co-hosts the FIFA World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. You might not believe it, but one cannot delay a World Cup. The date is the date, and it is not even the first test. The date is the date. The country has already had a taste of it because over the winter of 2025, Morocco hosted the Africa Cup of Nations, pulling teams and fans from across the continent onto Moroccan soil. Call it a dress rehearsal. The airports and the flag carrier got a live test, and the far bigger one is still to come. And Royal Air Maroc has signed on as the official airline of the 2030 tournament. That is not a sponsorship for the logo. It is an obligation. A government cannot host a World Cup and then tell arriving fans the flag airline ran out of seats. The tournament is why the fleet has to grow, and why it has to grow now, signed order or not. You can already watch the network stretching toward it. A new nonstop to Los Angeles launched this June. More frequencies onto Sao Paulo and far past everything else. The long, thin line from Casablanca to Beijing, almost 14 and a half hours. The airline's only foothold in Asia. So is this brilliant or reckless? There are real reasons to be skeptical. Start with the pattern. State-owned flag carriers chasing prestige have a graveyard all their own. Swissair had grand visions and a balance sheet that could not carry them, and it collapsed. Plenty of national airlines have burned through public money trying to outgrow their market. When the state owns the airline, and the airline answers to national pride, the pull is always toward routes that flatter the flag instead of routes that pay. Then there is the raw arithmetic. Going from around 60 planes to 200 means more than tripling the fleet in roughly a decade. It means hiring and training hundreds of new pilots at an airline that fired a third of its pilots 5 years ago. It means filling 31 million seats a year, more than 4 times today's traffic. And the competition is not standing still either. Remember that Open Skies wound from 2006? It never closed. The low-cost giants keep pouring into Morocco. And Ryanair in particular is expanding hard in the short-haul European market that should be Royal Air Maroc's bread and butter. The airline's own chief executive has admitted it plainly. The hardest competition is not other flag carriers. It is the low-cost model, eating the short routes where Royal Air Maroc cannot match the fares. Even Boeing has made it hard, with the same chief executive complaining about delivery delays of 15 to 18 months on jets already on order. If you cannot get the planes you already bought on time, how do you take nearly 200 more? And underneath all of it sits the deepest risk, because the hub only works if the connecting passengers actually come. The whole bet assumes a traveler in Lagos or Dakar will choose to change planes in Casablanca instead of Paris, Istanbul, Dubai, or Addis Ababa, where bigger, richer airlines fight for the same passenger. Casablanca has the geography. It does not yet have the habit. But here is the case for the other side, and it is stronger than the doubters allow. The geography is not a marketing slide. It is physics. Casablanca really does sit where Europe, West Africa, and the Atlantic crossings meet, and no other carrier is seriously building a hub on that exact spot. The rebound was real and profitable, not a paper trick. The OneWorld seat hands it a global feed no rival can match from this corner of the map. And the World Cup hands it the one thing almost every airline expansion lacks: a hard, immovable deadline backed by the full wallet of a state that has decided this airline is national infrastructure. Governments can spend in a way private airlines cannot, and Morocco has chosen to. So here is where I land. Royal Air Maroc is not a vanity project, and it is not a sure thing. It is a real bet, placed on the best piece of aviation real estate in Africa by a government that has decided connectivity is national strategy. The danger was never the geography or the demand. The danger is the gap between the plan and the signature. 200 is a number written into a contract nobody has actually signed. 60 is the number flying today. And the stretch of road between now and that World Cup is what decides which set of numbers was real. My read is that the geography is good enough that some version of this works. But the version on the press release, 200 planes, 31 million passengers, still has to be built plane by plane, route by route, on borrowed metal and a tournament that is not kicked off. And that is the debate I want to leave with you. If you were running Royal Air Maroc, would you sign the full 200 jet order today and bet the airline on the World Cup paying off? Or would you keep leasing, stay flexible, and refuse to gamble the whole company on a tournament and a hub that still has to prove it can fill the seats? Tell me in the comments, because I keep arguing myself out of both answers. If this was interesting, do me a favor. Like the video and subscribe to Explained so you do not miss the next one. AMD, also remember, it's still completely free. Thank you for watching this video. Stay safe, healthy, and kind, and I will see you in the next one.